Whoop, I didn't want to do that one. Folks, there are three main errors you're going to make on this quiz. This is a good quiz. I threw some nasties on it, especially on the back page. First error, can't find the right equation. That one we need to move beyond. The second error is going to be in rewriting the equations, because I really am pushing you to do some math in your head. That one, I don't mind us muddling through. Some of you are eating it right up. Great. Some of you are still wrestling with it. Trust me, we will get the hang of it. The third error, especially on the back page for some of the more complicated ones, is, Mr. Dewick, I have all the right numbers in the right place, but I got the wrong answer on my calculator. Now, I have gone on the occasional rant about getting a good calculator. I will help you figure out how to type stuff. This quiz here, when I collect it, if you didn't get perfect and if you just want to try and do your corrections quickly later on in class, don't hand the quiz in. You can do your corrections and just hand it in later on in class and change your score, okay? You will have about 10, 15 minutes at the end of class to get some work done. Hey, mark your own. Here we go. Who's my favorite student? Good old Anne. He already has, thanks. Oh, that was somebody else. Okay. Number one, first thing I do is I write down the equation. I think the one we're going to use here is VF equals VI plus AT. I want to get the T by itself. Well, the VF is what's going to drop down like a domino. I do my adding and subtracting next. I would minus VI. I would divide by A. That's going to give me T. I'm going to go 24.6 minus 3.2, all divided by 2.5. Is this a fraction? Yep. Is there more than one thing on the top? Brackets. Is there more than one thing on the bottom? Nope. Okay. 24.6 minus 3.2 divided by 2.5. I get 8.56 units times seconds. Now, by the way, technically, how many sig figs should I go to in this question? So I'm going to go 8.6. If you said 8.56, that's fine. If you said 8.6 or 8.56 and seconds, you get 2 out of 2. If you forgot the units or you have the wrong units, I take a half mark off. Otherwise, Ross, I would give you 1 mark if I saw that you had identified what our approach was, which the correct equation was, half mark for being able to rewrite it, and then a half mark for the answer. I don't care about the answer that much. I care much more about the method. Number 2, I think the equation here is going to be D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. I have to get the D by itself. Already is by itself. Well, that's kind of nice. So I'm going to go like this. D equals negative 8.5. I guess I started out going backwards at negative 8.5 or falling down at negative 8.5 for 19 seconds plus 0.5. I'm accelerating forwards, 19 squared. How far will I end up going? Now, in my handwriting, Caleb, I write brackets to show multiplying. On my calculator, I typically would not go bracket negative 8.5, bracket 19. That's too confusing to keep track of. I prefer to use the times button on my calculator. I would go negative 8.5 times 19 plus 0.5 times 2.5 times 19 squared. Also, I've got a good calculator. My calculator does BEDMAS for me. It'll do the multiplying and then the adding. Do you get 289.75? Which I'll totally take. How many sig figs should I go to? I guess 2 technically. So I'll write 290 meters as my final answer. If you got that right, 2 out of 2. Otherwise, I would again give you 1 mark for the equation. Here, because the D is by itself already, I'd give you like a half mark for the numbers and then a half mark for the answer. No yawning. No, no. Number 3, VIATD. Oh, same equation. D equals VIT plus a half AT squared. Oh, get the VI by itself. Ooh. No, I'm not going to panic. Go to the other side. I'm going to drop the D down. Then I do my adding, subtracting. it's going to be minus 0.5 AT squared. Then I do my dividing. Divided by T. That equals VI. It's going to be negative 70. What does that negative 70 mean, Emily? We started 70 meters below from 0. Or we started 70 meters behind the start line. Minus 0.5, negative 4.8. Oh, and we're accelerating backwards or downwards. T, 24 squared all over 24. Is a fraction, more than one thing on the top, definitely brackets around the top. Negative 70, take away 0.5 times negative 4.8 times 24 squared divided by 24. You get 54.683 repeating. I would take that. I would take 54.7. I'll write 54.683 repeating. How many sig figs should I go to? How many sig figs should I go to here? How many sig figs in the 4.8? How many sig figs in the 24? How many sig figs in the 70.0? How many sig figs should I go to? So I'll take 55. I'll write 55 meters per second. Where would I take a half mark off? If you said 54.6, I would say round off properly. I'd take a half mark off. It's not 0.6, it's 0.7. If you said 54, I'd say round off properly. I'd take a half mark off. Round off properly, always. Number 4, I'm going to use, same marking as before, by the way. 1 mark for the equation, half mark for rewriting it, half mark for the answer. Number 4, I'm going to use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. He already has, thanks. There's our Q. I want to get the VF by itself. Isn't that already by itself? Is it? It's not. What's actually by itself? A VF what? Squared. So Jordan, it's not by itself. Hey, Jordan, how do I get rid of a squared? What's the opposite of squaring? Loud and proud, you're right. I think you're right. Yeah. So you ready? Look, 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 look. Now I've got the V by itself. The whole right-hand side is going to be inside one big square root. Mr. Dueck! What, Emily? Can I cancel out this squared and that squared? No, 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 no. Because what's you don't realize is inside a square root, there is actually an implied bracket there that does say you have to do what's inside there first, which means you can't square root part of it and not the rest of it. You have to do the whole thing first. Okay? Anyhow, it's going to be 28 squared plus 2 times 9.8 times 152 square rooted. Again, some of you with the newer calculators, when you hit your square root button, it opens up a little mini window, and so you can type this all into your square root button. I don't know if yours does, but a lot of them do. I tend to go 28 squared plus 2 times 9.8 times 152 equals, and then I go square root answer button. And I get 61.344926. I'm going to go 61.3. Wait a minute. How many sig figs should I go to here? So I'm going to write my final answer as 61 meters per second, but I would totally take 61.3. Once again, 1 mark for the equation. I would give you a half mark for putting in the square root, and then a half mark for the number. And then I would turn the page. You mean there's a back page? Yeah, there is. I would turn the page. Oh, you already did. You're way ahead of me. Same equation. VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. Get the A by itself. Okay. A equals. Now I'm being bold. I'm writing the A equals, and I'm going to do the rest in my head. What's going to drop down like a domino? The VF squared. Do your adding and subtracting minus VI squared all over 2D. By the way, if you are getting good enough, Brendan, that you think you can get straight to this without writing that in your homework, knock yourself out. Go ahead. That's what I want to get all of you to. So you can glance at the data, look at your green sheet, rewrite it from what's already typed on your green sheet, and go straight to the new equation. That's a triple win. It's less memorizing. That's a win. It's less writing. That's a win. And you'll actually make less mistakes with letters than you will with numbers. Oh, it's actually a quadruple win. You'll get a little mini nerdy adrenaline rush because you'll go, oh, look at me, I'm so smart. So it's like, yay. Not joking. I glanced at the numbers here. Spencer, just read. What's VI? 40. What's VF? Am I speeding up or slowing down here? Look at the numbers. Am I speeding up or slowing down here? I'm going to ask you the same question. I'm just going to phrase it differently. On my calculator, will I expect a positive acceleration or a negative acceleration? So I've already got a built-in error check. I know the answer is going to be negative. I won't freak out if I get a negative. I'll relax, right? It's going to be 22 squared minus 40 squared all over 2 times 96. Brackets on top and on the bottom. I get negative 5.8125. Oh, I think, actually, technically for this question, I should only go to 1 sig fig because 40 is only 1 sig fig. I'm going to go negative 5.8 meters per second squared. That would get you 2 out of 2. Again, same as before. 1 mark, 0.5, 0.5. 6, 7, and 8 were mini curveballs, in particular 6 and 7. I like number 6, I like number 6, I like number 6. Number 6 is a nice question. What equation am I going to use for number 6? This one. D equals a half AT squared. Mr. Duick? Don't you mean D equals VIT plus a half AT squared? Isn't the equation, Mr. Duick, VIT plus a half AT squared? That's what I wrote. Mr. Duick, I don't want to criticize, I don't mean to beg to differ, but I don't see a VIT. No. What?
0.
So, as we're building our physics skills now, Devin, I've already taught you, look for units and numbers. Meters per second squared, it's an acceleration. Meters per second, it's a velocity. Which one? Figure it out. And I've told you to look for physics words at rest. Came to a stop, speeding up, slowing down. Another thing I will always make a note of are zeros, because my 0 times table is the easiest times table. It's so easy, even Caleb can do it. Caleb, what's 0 times 5? Caleb, what's 0 times 5?
0.
What's 0 times a million?
0.
What's 0 times theta?
0.
If VI is 0, what's 0 times t?
0.
Do I need to bother writing zeros? Nope. Okay. Now I want to get the t by itself. Well, the d is going to drop down like a domino. Check. I guess I'm going to divide by a, divide by 1. Wait a minute, that 1's not going to make a difference. Times by 2. That would give me t squared. Jordan, how to get rid of a squared? I'm coming back at you a couple of times with that. Be ready. Now, some of you may have written the equation this way. D equals 0.5 AT squared. Then you would have dropped the d down. You would have divided by 0.5a. You would have said that equals t squared, square root. My argument here, Kevin, is dividing by a half on the right is exactly the same as timesing by 2. And I'm going to prove it to you. You ready, Kevin? I'd like you to imagine you have 4 chocolate bars. Chocolate bars. Okay, 4 chocolate bars. Yes?
Yeah.
And I'd like you, listen closely to the words, I'd like you to imagine we divide them in half. How many pieces do we have? 4 chocolate bars, divide them in half. 8 pieces. Are you saying that 4 divided in half is 8, which is also the same as 4 times 2. Dividing by a half, same as timesing by 2. I didn't really notice that. Well, there you go. I usually go with this version because no decimals inside the fraction, and that's just a nerd thing with me. But I will take either one that you're comfortable with. Regardless, you're going to get something like this. Square root of 2 times 240 divided by 10. Oh, I can do this in my head, just about. It's going to be the square root of 48. Square root of 49 is 7 exactly. Square root of 48, it's going to be like, this is like 6.9, 6.92, 6.93, somewhere in there. I know it's 6.9 something. Yes? It's got to be. No? Yes? Give me some feedback, people. Okay, I got to type it in. Fine. 2 times 240 divided by 10. Told you it was the square root of 48. 6.93? Oh, how many sig? Oh, I can go to 3 sig figs in this one. So yeah, I'll go 6.93 seconds. Again, I would give you 1 mark for that, half mark for that, and a half mark for the answer. Yeah. I'll take that. I'll give you full marks, but to me, that's fingernails on the blackboard a little bit. Because here's what you actually did. I'd like to write down the most inaccurate answer possible, please. Okay, it's technically right. I guess. Okay. Yeah. I'd take that. Yeah. 2 more, we're done. Oh, hey. Number 7, the equation we don't use very much, what I've nicknamed the middle child because it's overlooked. Okay, that one. What am I trying to get by itself here? T. Mr. Dick, I don't know what to do. Yeah, you do. Well, no, yeah, you know what to do. But it looks though, relax. What am I going to drop down first like a domino? The D. What's the 0.5 doing to the T? Adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing? Multiplying, you say? Well, then I'll divide. What's the bracket doing to the T? Multiplying or dividing? Well, I'm going to divide. That equals T. Looks a little weird, but I didn't do anything dramatically new. I didn't panic. I said I'm going to be consistent and use the same algebraic patterns and rules I've used. D is 2400 divided by 0.5 bracket 5.5 plus 20. This is the one I saw in my last class. A lot of students had this written correctly and wrong answer. Okay, I'm going to type this carefully. Is this a fraction? Is there more than one thing on the top? I don't need brackets around the top. Is there more than one thing on the bottom? In fact, not only am I going to need brackets around the bottom, I think my brackets are going to have brackets. It's going to look like this. 2400 divided by bracket 0.5 times bracket 5.5 plus 20. I got to close off the mini bracket and close off the bottom. Now, the other thing you could have done, in fact, this is what I would have done. What's 20 plus 5.5 in your head? I might have just gone 25.5 in my head and typed that because it's less typing. And less brackets to track. You get 188.2352. I'm going to go, you know what? 3 sig figs. I'm going to go 188. 188 meters. Seconds, Mr. Duick. 188 seconds. That's what I said. Sorry, that M looked an awful lot like an S. Let me make it clearer for you. There, that's an S. Last one. Oh, same marking as before, right? You cluing in how I mark? This is why I get grumpy bear if people leave stuff blank, because that meant they couldn't find the equation. Hopefully that one we've practiced enough that you can use the process of elimination to at least get that. Number 8, turned out to be the same equation. The overlooked middle child. Okay. This time I want to get the VI by itself. Don't panic. Drop the D down. Divide the 0.5 and the T over, because those are outside the brackets and we're doing reverse BEDMAS, so we'll do what's outside the brackets first. That gives us VI plus VF dropping down, and since there's nothing outside the brackets anymore, I can ignore the brackets. In fact, I can make them vanish. How would I get the VI by itself now? And I guess I'm going to do the first term and then minus VF. So it's going to look like this. VI equals D 120 divided by 0.5 times 12 minus 24. Oh, I should be able to do this in my head, because 120 divided by 12 is 10. 10 divided by a half, 10 pieces broken in halves, 20 minus 24. Negative 4 even, yes? Technically negative 4.0, because I should technically go to 2 sig figs. I'm not going to be that fussy. It's a velocity, meters per second. 1 mark. Half mark. Half mark. Give yourself a score out of 16. If you want to hang on to your quiz to do corrections, you can. If you need to come lawyer with me, now is the time. Today you're going to be getting a take-home quiz in a couple of minutes. You will have time in class to work on it a bit later. But first, were there any questions from lesson 3? All these weird applications that you were going, Mr. Duick, I don't know how to get, huh? Now is your chance to ask. You tried this time you tried it? Hey, that's how it works. Okay. What did I say in brackets?
This one has 2 trips.
So I'd probably do that. I guess I'm going to find the distance in the first trip. How about I call that distance, or D1? How about I call the second one D2? And it looks like for the first trip, VI is 0, VF is 5, T is 4.5. I think I can use the middle child equation, the D equals 0.5 bracket VI plus VF close bracket times T, and I can find that distance. You okay with that, Spence? Okay. The second trip. Here is another physics word you want to look out for. In fact, it's important enough, I'm going to highlight it with a highlighter. Can you read to me that phrase? What does constant speed mean, folks? A equals 0. I think VI is 5, because that's how fast he was going at the end of the first part of the trip. Yes? T is 8. What's the equation that has D, A, VI, and T in it? Did you say VF? I don't know VF. Again, louder, please.
D is equal to VI T plus 1/2 AT squared.
Spencer is both right and wrong. He's right. That's the equation. He's wrong. I would never write that. Look up. Look at what I've written in red. Are there any zeros there? The A is 0. So go look at that equation. Put a 0 in your mind in for the A, and one whole expression will vanish. Yes? So what's the modified equation? D equals?
VI.
Do you know VI? Do you know T? In fact, I can do the second trip in my head. 40. So it's going to be 40 plus whatever that is, and I'll bet you this works out to somewhere around 11.3, because that's how I got the 51.3. Just a guess. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yep. Any others? Yeah.
8C.
8C. Okay. So it wants you to find that. You know V final is 60. Yes. V initial is 0. It does say, assuming it starts from rest. A equals 15. I think I can use VF squared equals VI squared plus 2AD. I think I can go D equals VF squared minus VI squared all over 2A. Yep. I think we did one just like that in the homework, finding an airport runway length. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Put your pencils down.